So the scripture of the day today is Mark 2:27, where it says the Sabbath was made for man and not man for the Sabbath. And as I went on to listen to the little commentary that they put on the Bible app, which I don't even often listen to, but I just felt like seeing, what they had to say today. He talked about the hustle and bustle of today's world. He talked about, the drive and desire and restlessness of our hearts and how that is an enemy against Sabbath, right? And it made me start reflecting on just small changes that I've made in my life over time that I realize have brought me, where God leading me to this place of Sabbath in life in general. And I realized the ways in which I, set up my life in such ways in previous seasons to really override Sabbath, to override my need to rest, to override what my body may have been telling me so that I could be more productive and do more things and get more money and whatever else, And so a few things that come to mind are originally cannabis. Like, a lot of people attack cannabis use, smoking, etc. as just sin, but it's deeper than that. I don't ever feel like for me that God asking me to remove that from my life was from a perspective of it's sin. It was from a perspective of I was smoking because I was able to override my true dissatisfaction with the life I was living. I was able to override the deep desire in myself for greater purpose. I was able to override even just those momentary things in my life. Like it allowed me to work more, and work further than I would have without it. It allowed me to do more than I would have without it. And to some, hearing that, it's like, okay, so what's the problem with that? God set up our bodies and the world in a natural rhythm, right? And so when our bodies are tired, we're actually supposed to be tired in that moment. Like when we feel like we need a break, we're actually supposed to go ahead and take a break in that moment. But, because productivity calls, because money calls, because whatever else calls, we've set up a lot of ways for us to override what our bodies may be telling us, to go forth and do more, to go forth and do whatever it is that we feel like is more important in the moment than honoring what our body is telling us in that moment. And so like for me, cannabis was one of those ways. Another thing, which is more common, is caffeine. Listen, caffeine, when I was teaching, it could get me through. Like I'd have caffeine in the morning to be energetic throughout the day. But then, I had a part-time, I would tutor after school. So I would have more caffeine so I can go further. And then I still have to grade papers and do lesson plans. So I would have more caffeine. Maybe I split it in half, whatever, so that I could then work some more in that evening time. And that followed me even through, after I quit teaching for a little while, until I just said, I wanted to be done. I didn't want to rely on caffeine any longer. And I won't lie to any of you guys to say that some of my productivity didn't slow down, that certain things in my life didn't slow down, but I knew that I wanted to live by a more natural rhythm. And if that meant that I had to sacrifice being able to do in order to just live on the grace that God gives me alone, if it meant that I needed to take a nap when I needed to take a nap, if it meant that I needed to actually sleep 8 hours a night or however many hours, that my body needed in that season, I was willing to make that trade-off at the time. And I feel like these are the subtle ways in which we give away our Sabbath. Now, granted, the Sabbath itself is one day a week that, we set aside to rest. I doubt that most of us even do that, where we truly set aside a full day of rest. A lot of times we, fill it up with chores. We fill it up with, we're not doing like the work that pays us, but now we're doing other work. We're cleaning up. We are, catching up on the things we didn't get to do throughout the week, etc. So yes, Sabbath is one day a week that we honor for rest. And also, when Jesus came, he came to bring us a level of Sabbath that exceeds that goes even outside of that one day. And so, I am sharing this reflection to kind of invite you to look at the areas in your life and the habits in your life and the structure of your life and ask yourself, what things may be an enemy to you truly living in Sabbath, to you truly living in rest, to you truly operating on the natural rhythms of life that God created for us. What ways are you overriding your need for sleep? What ways are you overriding your need for a moment, a mental break? What ways are you overriding even your body screaming out that something is not for you, that it's not in alignment with you, but maybe you're using alcohol or cannabis or food or whatever else to override the fact that you're not in alignment, that you're not in the place that God would have you to be. And when you recognize those things, I invite you also to not beat yourself up about it or to stress about it, because even in this world, a lot of times when we see problems, instead of just, realizing and taking it in with grace, we can take it on as, dang, another thing I have to focus on, another thing I have to work on. And I invite you not to do that. I invite you to recognize it and then to invite God to show you how to address it, and to wait on him to show you instead of stressing about it. Allow him to guide you into the way he would have you to go so that you may live a more restful life, whatever that looks like for you. But yes, so again, your homework, I don't even want to say homework because I don't even want to say work. I just want you to look at your life and reflect and ask yourself, and this may not be just a one moment thing. This may be a thing that you just notice your habits over time, and ask yourself, what ways are you overriding your need for rest, overriding what your body's telling you, overriding the natural rhythms of life through substances, through habits, through even the way you talk to yourself, cracking that whip on yourself and saying, no, we need to go. Like, why can't you just, get more work done, etc. Ask yourself and reflect and just observe. And when you see these things, don't beat yourself up about it. Don't stress about it. Don't add it as another thing to your to-do list. Observe and give it back to God and ask him to walk you back into what Sabbath would look like in that place, what rest would look like in that place, what the natural rhythm of life would look like in that place. And so I hope that you have a wonderful Sunday, and I will talk to you soon, God willing. Love you bunches.